If you have your child in LAUSD and they're getting ready to go back to school and you think they're going to be safe and sound,
they're not.
We are now going to go live with the president of the Los Angeles School Police Officers Association. That's Gil Gamez. Gil, are you there?
Yes, this is Gil. Hi, David. How you doing?
Good, Gil. You're on live with myself, Jeffy Gergenti, Lucy Valesky,
hello,
and Don Monroe, who...
How you doing?
Now, remember, Don's uncle is one of the strong supporters of the challenges that you're facing. He was been the voice in your corner. So, Gil, let's let people know what is the association and what are your duties and what has happened.
So, hi, Dave. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. My name's Gil Gamez. I'm the president of the LA School Police Officers Association. That's the police department that serves LAUSD, and we are also Los Angeles Unified School District LAUSD employees. About a year ago, I was the president of about 400 officers, but sometime last year, as a result of the unfortunate death of Mr. George Floyd, there's been a trained little group of students through LAUSD called Students Deserve, and they took the unfortunate events and I guess the perceived sins of another department, and they applied it to our school police department. This is nothing new. They've been working to disband our police department with the help of Dr. Melinda Abdullah from Cal State LA, and a group called the Labor Community Strategy Center under the direction of Eric Mann. He was a former weatherman. He's an out communist. He was actually imprisoned in the United States. He trains groups to organize. Apparently, he's a very effective organizer. He was the mentor of Patrisse Cullors, one of the three founding people of Black Lives Matter, who is an out Marxist. She's a trained Marxist, as she says. So all that's fine in the adult world. Let the adults fight amongst themselves. But these groups, along with the help of United Teachers Los Angeles, the teachers union, not the teachers themselves. The teachers are great people, but the teachers union, they indoctrinated a group of young kids, predominantly African American young ladies and beautiful young girls, but they were indoctrinated and trained to go to the LAUSD board meeting and create a case against the school police department, saying that we do not want officers on campus because their uniforms are trauma-inducing and they are bad for the developmental growth of students, which is, I'm sure they were told to say that. So they're being trained by a communist Marxist group, and that actually goes against the California Educational Code. California Educational Code 51530 states that you are not allowed to teach communism, Marxism, Maoism, to indoctrinate students at all. This is something that children should not be exposed to. If they want to go to Cal Berkeley and learn that, that's fine. Once they hit 18, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, but not North Hollywood High School.
Right.
Well, Gil, you before this, these changes came about, the number of officers you had in your department, wasn't that somewhere, circa 400?
Over 400, correct. We had over 400 officers. The vote took place last summer. Apparently, the student group pushed, and board members voted, and now we're down to around 200.
So how many?
Lost.
Gil, how many officers does that put in the number of schools that we have in LAUSD? It's a huge district. It's the second largest district in the country. So how many officers? So tell us about the number of officers you've got in schools and how the principals are supposed to get a hold of officers when they have an emergency.
So for starters, LA Unified is the second largest school district in the United States. New York City School District the first. New York City School District had about 5,000 officers, and at our peak, we're the second largest. We had just over 400. We would have one on every high school campus, some campuses two, depending on the level of danger, and one on every middle school. Now we are removed from, according to last year's board vote, we are not allowed on campus unless we're called. We've been reduced, almost cut in half. So when parents drop their children off at school, the expectation of them being truly safe is very low. I mean, I don't know what to tell parents. We're being replaced. They're coming up with this new, instead of police officers, these climate coaches, climate safety coaches. This position doesn't even exist in LA Unified. They are creating it as they speak. I mean, this was a political move to appease the people of the BLM persuasion, the Black Lives Matter persuasion.
So if you're not on campus, who's calling you? Are the principals calling you? Are you?
No, they're not allowed to. So our department's been around for a very long time, and we formed alliances with principals for safety. An officer used to be able to be on campus, and the principal picks up his radio, calls for the officer, and within minutes, the officer would be over to his location. Now, the principal's not allowed to call the officer directly. They have to call dispatch. Dispatch has to deploy an officer. Even the principals are not allowed to have access to us.
Well, Gil, I think there's about 1,000 schools in LAUSD and then another 200 charter schools. And I think even with the decrease in student population, it's still hovering right around 590,000 students, and with about 68,000 of those being adults on campus. And so you have adults, you have students, and then you have all the personnel. So if we're looking at, we'll round it off to 600,000 individuals, and you've got 200 police officers to be of service if there's an emergency. And, quite frankly, we know that there are emergencies, and we know that you and your officers, unfortunately have been called to the schools when there's been shootings and stabbings, and it's not all what people assume it is.
Correct. This is a very poor thought out plan by the district board members. LA, it's some parts, we know what LA is. It's dangerous. These schools should be oases with oases of learning. We had a fence, we had trained staff, we had police officers to keep them safe so the educational process could happen. Now we are not there. So we fancy ourselves as sheepdogs. The protective sheepdogs are not there, and the wolves know it now. And I'm not talking about the children. The children and the staff are the ones to be protected. It is the predatory people on the outside. We've arrested a lot of child molesters, people, adults that assault children. So it is just not keeping order on a campus. It's keeping the wrongdoers in the neighborhood, away from these children so we could protect them. And we've been defunded, so we can't even do our job of protection.
Yeah, who you should talk to? Anybody want to talk to someone about to reverse that or bring more the police on premises? Who we should talk to?
It should be the parents, right? All of this was done quite cleverly under the disguise of the COVID, under the darkness of COVID. We were all inside, hunkered down. Our officers were out there protecting and serving. We didn't get to work from home. So it's the parents. We really have to activate the parents. We have to inform the parents. And the Hispanic community needs to say, listen, I understand that there's a population with the African American students that's around, anywhere from 11 to 13%. But a small percentage of that percentage should not be dictating the safety of the whole school district. I mean, that's insane.
Right.
So it's the parents that we need to contact.
Right, Gil, what we want to do is, we're going to continue with this issue because as kids are starting to go back, people think, and I've heard people tell me, well, cops belong on the street, not in the school. And, that's very narrow-minded because there were a lot of programs that were beneficial to kids like Pals and Explorers and different things like that those programs have been disbanded.
That's correct.
Yes,
I heard that
yes.
too.
So
I'd like to leave you with one thing if I got a couple seconds.
Okay.
The superintendent conducted a very long survey. It took months. There was survey, there was comprehensive studies, and in January this came out. And the vast majority of parents, the vast majority of students, and the vast majority of staff wanted to keep the school police officers on campus. And the board voted no. They voted that they didn't care what their constituents said. Specifically, board member Kelly Gonez was in a debate with Dr. George McKenna, the only African American person on the LAUSD board, and she says basically, I don't care what they say, I don't care what the adult constituents say, I just care about this little group of students deserve. So
well, we should fire them like they did in San Francisco.
Well,
you know.
What a great segue. What a great segue, Lucy. So, Gil, we'll have you back, and we have your back. And so thank you for calling in, and we're going to take that segue that Lucy just